and welcome to the High Octane Podcast, a Friday Night Fuel production. My name is Zach Woods, and over here I got Ricky Gonzalez. Say hello to the internet, Ricky.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome into episode 3. And Zach, I've been sitting on this title for basically a week. The Chosen One. So we kind of dipped into two different bags, I guess you could say. I know my guy over here is a resident pastor, and so the Chosen One, right? So for all our Jesus lovers out there, dipped into that one. And then obviously our Star Wars fans. So I hit two birds, Zach, with one stone. And from the moment we got interviewed and nobody knew what the title was to the podcast, and then I sent it over to you earlier this afternoon, and I got a lot of laughs from you, and yeah, it just clicked when we were waiting in the broadcast waiting room, and kind of just we rolled with it.
Yeah, so this whole prediction thing that we're doing over here is starting to get a little weird, but we'll hit that later in the show, and I'll take my victory lap once again. I'm getting a little tired of taking my 5 minutes of glory here towards the end of the show, but I guess we'll try to go 3 for 3 here this week. We got a jam-packed show for you guys here tonight. See a couple folks in the chat. I can only assume Curbside Gaming is Kirby Caputa. So welcome, and David, welcome. We love to have the chat here. We love to converse with you guys. Something that we're going to ask from the chat tonight. We got some feedback from you last week in regards to our audio balance, and we were trying to fix that on the fly last week. Some of the complaints is that I'm not loud enough, and my complaint last week for me was that when Ricky talks, he sort of reverbs when he gets down in his low Elvis voice, and and so I have a couple things up right now that I think will fix that. My hope is that you guys out there in YouTube land are able to provide live feedback for me, and I can switch that on the fly. So it says Ricky still looks like Denny Hamlin, but audio is good. Thank you for the feedback, Kirby. I really appreciate it. But yeah, we want to hear from you guys. How can we make this better for you? Because we love the High Octane Podcast. We're already here on episode 3. We got an awesome show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about Friday Night Fuel's All-Star Race. Got a lot to talk about there. A winner that was a surprise for a few, but not for me. And an awesome race to talk about last week at The Rock, and some great things to talk about in terms of a creative qualifying segment. We're going to talk about it all as we look in the rearview mirror for our All-Star Race. Then we're going to take a quick pit stop, a new segment for us here, the pit stop on High Octane, where we're going to just take a break, get fueled up for a little bit, and talk about anything that, well, Ricky and I are really passionate about. And the first time we debut the pit stop, it only makes sense that we're going to wind up talking about iRacing. So we want to make sure that anybody that might be new to the platform might get an idea of what leagues are all about, what iRacing is all about. How can you be a part of this really awesome community, and why is iRacing regarded as some of the more cutting edge stuff that's going on in terms of sim racing? We're really excited to share that with you on the new segment, the pit stop. And then of course, as we look out the windshield, we're going to talk about Nashville Fairgrounds this week, as Friday Night Fuel goes somewhere that is a fan favorite and a driver's favorite as well. A very historic track and can lead to some awesome racing. I am excited, Ricky, to cover it all with you here tonight on High Octane.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I'm really anxious to start the new segment of the pit stop, and we're going to go through a little bit of a history tutorial too with how iRacing has just changed the gaming platform for every game that you can play, right? I know college football just came out. People are playing that. People are playing iRacing, and then Nashville Fairgrounds. I'm really want to speak on that. And since we're going to the great state of Tennessee, you can see I have some props next to me. Going to be debuting. Well, I guess we debuted it last week at the Rocks since it was the All-Star race, but We're going to be throwing on an Elvis Presley paint, and we're going to see if we can get the king of rock and roll in victory lane. He's won on my car multiple times in other leagues, and so I want to try to get him a win when we go to the fairgrounds on Friday night.
Well, you know that'll only come true if I say it so. So we'll get to there by the end of the show. Super excited that you're here with us. I see you, Wade, here in the chat. So grateful to have all of you here. Grateful to have the feedback. Let's get the show on the road here for Friday Night Fuel's exclusive podcast, High Octane. Let's take a look back at what was through our rearview mirror and talk about Friday Night Fuel's all-star race. They went out on a limb. They did something a little different. And if you tuned in to Snake Bitten Gaming on Friday, you were in for a treat. These drivers were out there practicing for a brand new qualifying segment. These drivers were out here trying to get the most out of their cars on what is a driver's track in the Rock in order to bring home the glory and glory alone of winning the all-star race. And it was a doozy. These folks really showed up and put on a good show. Ricky, let's start with you as one of the drivers there in this race. Kind of walk us through qualifying. How did you as a driver sort of prepare for something that was very different? We talked about it here on the show. We had an awesome video from Brett Bullard, one of the competitors for Friday Night Fuel, put together an awesome video for us to debut here, talked about an iRacing rendition of a NASCAR fan favorite with the pit crew, pit road challenge, and you sort of made it work with iRacing.
Yeah, and shout out to John for coming up with the track for us to have a pit stop on the backstretch. And so for the viewers who are just tuning in for the first time, in iRacing, every time you come down pit road, it kind of just disallows your time that's on the track. So luckily for us, we had a pit road that was on the backstretch, and so we would you'd go 150 going down into turn number 1, you'd brake, and then you just have to find a way to get the car stable, set, and then you just wanted to bring it down all the way to the bottom of the racetrack. And then there was a little jump as you come onto the backstretch pit road, and then trying to just hit your marks a couple times. You want to do that in practice, or if you tested during the week, you wanted to hit that mark. And for me, I literally got into the rig probably 2 hours before the session right after work, and that's all I practiced. I didn't care about running consistent times at the moment. I just wanted to nail coming down the pit road. And there's a couple times where we hit that jump and the car it hit the inside wall, or something would happen. I'd lose control, and trying to find that right balance of what's the right speed to come off when you hit that little jump. So we hit the jump, and then we found a breaking point that it took me probably 30 minutes to figure that out. But what hurt me was I nailed it in practice and testing 7 times in a row. I've always repetition and getting reps on something like that is key for me, and we did it perfectly every single time. And then when the bright lights turned on, for whatever reason, I don't know why, we missed it. So unfortunately for me, we got the pole. We were about a second to 9/10 quicker than everybody who went out on the racetrack to do that pit stop competition. And to come to find out, we didn't stop all the way in the box, and so we got the EOL to start the race. So I was sitting in the back from the start of the green flag, and yeah, we just kind of, that first run, we had about a 25 lap run, and I managed to go from about 23rd to 7th in that run. And that's when I knew, as we were going through the field, I knew that we had something for these guys. And luckily for us, we were there at the end, battling for a win. But just way too many mistakes from me. I'm a guy that tries to pride himself on not being perfect, but just, I'm hard on myself when I do make mistakes. And so we caught another penalty in the last segment, 20 laps to go. We got a speeding penalty, and that shuffled me all the way to the back. And the way that the setup was, once you got trapped in dirty air, you were stuck. And I remember one time in the race, I was behind Mark, Nathan Eastep, and John Gutekunst, and I just couldn't go anywhere just because, everybody's taking up multiple lanes, and you're trying to get clean air to the nose so you can turn the car and get it to rotate. And I was just stuck, and I couldn't do anything with them. So we got up to 4th, and then luckily a caution came out, and about the top 7 or 8 guys came down pit road. So that we went from about 15th to 3rd in that cycle, and we just managed to stay there at the front. And I could see John on the last couple of laps, especially in turns 3, getting a little tight with the race car. he was trying to stick it on the bottom of the racetrack. I felt like, and I could see the car just gradually move up just a little bit. And so yeah, we got the run off of 4, and we tried to get to his quarter panel, and it just ran out of time and ran out of asphalt at the end coming to the line, and he got us by .07. So I guess it's ironic he beats us by the car number, and that's, for me, that's my favorite number, .07. And all in all, it still was a good day. Got a win last week. We get a second this week, and I feel like the momentum on the 7 group is just going to get better and better as the season rolls on.
Yeah, as a fan, it was really cool to watch, especially qualifying, right? Something different for us as viewers to really tune in and get excited for. Something you don't really ever see on the iRacing platform was a rendition of the Pit Crew Challenge, and although it's not exact, it did provide quite a bit of challenge. And as a fan watching, that's what I really enjoyed. I knew that, hey, you can struggle here, right, to put down a hot lap, but you can make up a lot of time depending on how fast you get down on pit road. And if you nail that pit stop, you could make up a ton of time versus some other guys. I know for me personally, Ricky, pit road entry and whatnot is super sketchy personally, but when you're flying down pit road trying to make up as much time as humanly possible, that's really a moot point. But something I really struggle with from track to track is launching out of the box, right when you leave, trying to eliminate all that wheel spin, trying to make the most out of the jump out of your pit box. Well, I know for you it was a little different, right? Because you messed it up, and Ricky and pit road difficulties, peanut butter and jelly,
Yeah.
and but hey, it didn't happen during the race. It just happened during qualifying. As a driver, what is it like mentally to line up as a field getting ready for a race when under normal conditions you're sort of around people that you feel like are, well, the same speed as you, right? Because people go around, they're able to do a hot lap. It's generally close to what they practice in. It's generally close to what they might race in, or at least right away. And now we're here at the All-Star race, and you don't really know what everybody's race pace is in terms of how they qualified because, well, there's this extra variable. If they did really good on pit road, that might inflate their qualifying time. It might not necessarily mean that they're fast going around the racetrack, and then vice versa. If there was somebody that struggled on pit road and has good race pace, they're stuck in the back to begin this race. What is it as a driver to get ready for a race and to look around you and go, I don't really know what these guys' race pace is like?
Yeah, it was such a crapshoot going into that qualifying session that I didn't really know what a good time was, right? You test and you practice on your own, and you're thinking, okay, I'm picking up time here and I'm losing time there. What can I do? And you brought it up. The wheel spin is what got me the first couple times. I'm trying to get out of the box like John Force, and for whatever reason, the car just wanted to do its own thing. And now you got to play with the throttle, and as soon as you stop, you got to get right back on it. But you can't go full power because if you do, you're going to spin out. And we saw a couple guys have troubles with that. We saw a couple guys even hit the inside wall, which disallowed their time. So also for anybody that's new to this, you have any contact with the wall whatsoever, iRacing does not pick up your time, and that's not an admin team thing. That's just iRacing in general. So if you're doing your qualifying run and you want to run the outside wall, good luck to you. More power to you. But if you scrape or touch that wall, it's not going to count as your lap. So there were some mind games being played, and how fast do I come down? There were some guys that just played it conservative and just wanted to get a time on the board, and then there's other guys that just wanted to sit on the pole because they know how fast they were. And for us, like I said, we start in the back, and you don't know what race pace is like. And I know a couple of guys did both. They practiced the pit road stuff, and then they went out onto the racetrack, and they probably put 20 laps together to see what the tire fall off is going to be, and then do I have something for the short run? How far can I push the car? So those are some of the stuff that our drivers in our league do. And yeah, once we see a time on the board, and for me, since I'm on triple monitors, I actually have the standings on one of my monitors, and so I'm able to see kind of, all right, where am I stacking up? And I have their previous lap of what from their fast lap they have, and there's a lot of data that's inputted when I have on the screens, just so I know what's going on in the race. So I knew, for me personally, we had speed, right? We knew I could get kind of through the field and passing the, I don't want to say the slower guys, but kind of just getting by them as fast as I can, so we're not burning as much tire, and vice versa, right? The guys in the front, I'm sure they loved having that clean air and being able to put the car wherever they wanted to do, and not really abuse the tires like I did on the first run. And so yeah, that qualifying was pretty insane and pretty crazy to see, coming down 150, and then you have to come to a complete stop. You can't go 1 mile an hour, 2 mile an hour. You got to come to 150 to 0, and then, like you said, launch out of the box as fast as you can to get back onto the racetrack so you can complete that lap. And so it was definitely interesting and weird, but at the same time it was fun. I'm not saying we're gonna do this every week, but it was fitting to do this for an all-star event.
Absolutely. And as a fan watching, that you said it perfectly. I wouldn't want to see that every week, because ultimately you do want qualifying to be reflective of how people are going to wind up, generally speaking, right? Racing. And short run speed, long run speed, maybe a bad qualifying lap can throw that off. But at the end of the day, generally speaking, you get a decent idea of how the field's going to stack up via qualifying. Here at the All-Star race, you just really didn't know, because so many variables could have happened during your qualifying attempt, could have really increased your time or decreased your time. Going through the top 5 here at the All-Star race, John Gutekunst winds up winning because Ricky's a nice guy and didn't dump him going into turn 3. And I was, man, Ricky, just from me to you, it felt so... I had a lot of eggs in the John Gutekunst basket, and off of my prediction from the week before. But the week before that, I was rooting for John to not dump you going into turn 3, and then the script flipped, and then I'm suddenly rooting for Ricky to not dump John going into turn 3 at a race where it doesn't matter if he dumps John going into 3 or not. And so John's able to hold on. He had that big buffer between him and a lot of the guys who took tires. It was just enough for him to stay out front and to be competitive there at the end. So congratulations to John on being the all-star of that weekend. Then, of course, Ricky, nice guys, finished second. So Ricky finishes second, and what you called a nail-biter there, finishing so close, but able to get home second place. Bryce Boyer up, I'm looking here, 13 spots from where he started on the grid. Good day for him, finishing third. Spencer Teal fourth, and then Nathan Eastep fifth. So great showing from all the folks there at the All-Star race. Any final words you want to talk about in terms of looking in the rearview mirror back to the Rock?
Yeah, I want to talk about Bryce for a second. You said it, up 13 spots. He's one of the ones that clipped that inside wall in qualifying, and he was running towards mid-pack in that first couple of laps, that first stint, basically that first 25 laps. And it looked like once he got the car to the outside lane, he was able to just carry momentum and just get to our back bumper. And it was extremely difficult during that first 25 laps. He made it really hard to get by him, but that's a big improvement from where he started to finishing third and even having a chance to win it there at the end. He was literally right behind me as we were coming to the line too, and I didn't notice that he had pulled down to the bottom of the racetrack like I did to try to beat John to the line. So it looked like I blocked him, but I didn't. I don't look in the mirror when we're coming to the line for the checkered flag. I'm trying to focus on getting John, and yeah, that's a tremendous run by him, and it took him probably, I don't know, the first stint and maybe half the second stint for him to figure this track out. But once it clicked, that 29 machine was on its way to the front. And so good run by them, and I'm anxious to see what he does here at the fairgrounds. I believe he was one of the 12 drivers that ran this race last year. I actually went back and watched the race from Nashville when we previewed that. So yeah, we're going to see if that third place finishes carries the momentum of the 29 onto this weekend and when we head to the fairgrounds.
Yeah, really excited there to see what happens at the fairgrounds, but let's not get too far ahead of ahead of our skis here. We got a whole new segment to talk to you about on High Octane. We're about halfway through the run, and from here to the end of this thing, and it's time to take a pit stop. We are so excited to debut a new segment for you guys. You can see here on the rundown, we're calling it the pit stop. This is a time in the show where Ricky and I, we're going to come up from week to week, whatever we want to talk about when it comes to either what's happening in motorsport. We might wind up, I don't know, talking about real life NASCAR maybe at some point. I'm sure we're going to have a champion over there in a few weeks. We might throw our hats in the ring and try to talk about real life NASCAR. I don't know. But sports, it could be whatever. But this is a time where the viewers can get to know Ricky and I and what we're passionate about, what we're excited to talk about apart from specifically Friday Night Fuel. We're going to always begin and end our show with Friday Night Fuel, but a little while here in the middle while we get refreshed, you guys can get to know us a little bit. And it only makes sense to talk about iRacing here with you for our first pit stop. This is going to be a really fun conversation, Ricky. I know that for us, iRacing is a bit of a hobby. There are folks that take this way more seriously than we do, and then there are folks that hop on once a month or so just to cruise around with some old friends. It is such a diverse platform, and we want to share with folks that might be new to the iRacing conversation what this platform's all about. Talk to you guys in the chat. We'll ask you guys, what does iRacing mean to you? And get to know each other when it comes around the platform. So let's open it up here. I know for you and me, Ricky, iRacing became something that we got into when the world decided it wanted to just fall apart. And 2020 was a big year, not just for us when it comes to this platform, but everybody else. And let's talk about what the pandemic meant for the growth of iRacing, because it was felt in some cases nationally, as it got to be seen quite a bit on TV as well.
Yeah, that's actually the year that I got into iRacing. Is they went to Atlanta Motor Speedway in real life, and then 3 days later, NASCAR comes out and says we're not racing this weekend because of the pandemic. And so I have always been interested in iRacing. I've seen multiple Twitch streamers do this thing, and I've always been curious about it. I come from the console side, and so I know some of our chat viewers did the same. They came from the console side, whether you're playing on PlayStation or Xbox. And there's one driver that I've always watched on Twitch. He goes by the name of Casey Kerwin. He's actually our 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing champion. So there is a pro division that these guys perform at. And so I would watch his stuff. And then Mark, actually my little brother, got me into it. He says, "Hey man, I'm doing this iRacing stuff. Come over to the house or the apartment, and I want to show you this." And so I did it once, and Zach, I was awful. I was terrible at this, and I told Mark I don't think I'm good enough to do this. And so maybe a month later, I finally got into it, and I went and bought my first wheel, and it's actually sitting in my closet here in the game room still. And it's a Thrustmaster, just the plastic pedals, and now we've upgraded to all the Fanatec stuff, and there's a lot of gizmos and gadgets out there in the sim racing world. If you are a first-time racer, that you can spend a buttload of money in a heartbeat getting everything. So, I mean, I have 3 wheels. I have one for the road racing, NASCAR, and then I have one for dirt. I have the shifter right here. You can't see it on camera. I'm actually, the wheel's off now, so I got the hub right in front of me. My foot's actually sitting on the brake pedal right now. So there's so many things that happened in the year 2020. And I was racing on a 55-inch TV at the time. Now I bought a rig, and now I have triples, and there's people that race in VR. There's people that race on big screen TVs, ultra wide screens, and it's curious for me to see what other people are racing at. I think today somebody sent me a picture of they like hollowed out a dresser drawer, and they put their wheel, and it's like the drawer slides for their wheelbase, and that's where their wheel sits on. And for me, it's seeing that stuff. People build their own stuff of what they're racing in, and then obviously getting on the iRacing platform and just going just going fast and wanting to race. And Zach, for me, I've met so many good people on this server, and I've also met some bad apples. I'm not gonna say it's all rainbows and unicorns in this iRacing platform, but I also met some bad apples. But for the most part, everybody who I've communicated with has been welcoming. And I know since I travel for work a lot, I know if I go to any part of the United States and a person on this platform has me in their state or city, I know they're going to open their door and want to hang out. And also, I wouldn't be the racer I am if it wasn't for Wes Fuller. I've met Wes in 2021 at Kansas, and honestly, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be an owner of Titletown. I wouldn't have been on the platform at all. I wouldn't have made a friendship from Wes to a guy that I almost talk to almost every day, right? And I know that if I go to Kansas or Missouri in that neck of the woods, he's going to open his door and say, dude, don't even buy a hotel. Come stay at my house. It'll save you a buttload of money. So that's just the friendships that I've made on this platform. And it's been awesome to see the friends that you can make on it.
And then you could have dudes like Caleb Collins who winds up living in your state, but then you live in Texas and you realize it's a pretty big state.
Yeah, Caleb lives about 4.5, 5 hours from me. So for the viewers out there, I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth, and then Caleb is in Canyon, Texas, which is out there in no man's land. And if he's watching, he's gonna say, then what is Lubbock? If I'm in no man's land, what is Lubbock? So, yeah, we're actually gonna try to hang out with Caleb in about 2 weeks. We're going up to Lubbock for a college football game, and those are the things that you do too, right? You get to hang out with people outside of aside of seeing them on a computer screen. You get to see them in real life and just hang out and talk and not worry about racing and just talk about life in general.
Yeah, I know for me is similar birth into iRacing. I went into it headlong with my best friend David Mosbaugh, who, if you are fans of Spin Move iRacing Network, which you're here, so I hope you are, he is my other half to this channel, and we created Spin Move Racing, him and I, and just went headlong into just trying to figure out what in the world are we going to use this big awesome platform for when it comes to making friends and making connections in a time where doing that was really hard to do. And iRacing just came so naturally for us in terms of just meeting new people. We got hooked up with a guy named Chris Hubka, who has his own league, and he sought us out, and we were the two brand new people in his brand new league, and it felt sort of special that he found us, and we tried to figure this whole thing out there, and met some of y'all over there, and we even though we were not affiliated yet, we had respect for each other and wound up talking to each other, and the bubble sort of grew and grew and grew. And then, very similarly to your story, Wes Fuller and I, we took a liking to each other just simply because I got to the point where if I was racing for anywhere between 15th and 20th, Wes was back there racing with me too, and we couldn't get unglued from one another no matter what racetrack we were at. And we grew fond of each other, and that friendship grew, and Spin Move sort of went away and then came back, and there's a whole bunch of shuffling involved, and through it all, David's been by my side, and it's been a lot of fun, this whole adventure. And I'm a pastor, and so I really saw this for ministry opportunities to talk to people about faith, and then to just be there, right, for other folks who might be going through stuff. Don't want to be pushy, but I just want to make sure that people know that if you're going through stuff, I'm around. And it turned into some awesome friendships. Had great sponsorship opportunities to help offset costs for races. I got featured in a magazine, and here I am not winning anything, but hey, I'm doing it for ministry, so here we are. And it was a lot of fun. And then winding up going with you guys to different leagues and just sort of palling around together as a group. I can't even fathom going to a different league without some of the folks from Titletown at least following me there. And it's just been an awesome platform to be able to connect with folks and forge relationships. And then for me personally, it's just been really fulfilling in terms of ministry where, I mean, I've talked to you and I've talked to John about this and Wes as well, where right now where I'm not racing, like you guys are my social life outside of my work. You know, you are the people that I talk to that aren't people that I'm supposed to just serve every day. And it is stuck, right? We're in 2024, almost 2025, and I can't really fathom now, regardless of how good I may or may not be, just dropping this platform and going away. This is such a huge part of my life, and I've really grown to appreciate it. Oh, Wes, hey, you're watching, bud. Hey, good to see you. It's just been such a great opportunity to meet some awesome people, and want to talk. I want to piggyback on what you said about rigs and stuff. Man, that is fascinating for me too. I want to hear from the chat. What's your rig setup look like? Because one of the cool things about iRacing, Ricky, is that you absolutely can spend a ton of money on equipment and on monitors and on a rig. I built what we affectionately called the box at my old house, and it was hot. It was hot as all heck get out, but it looked cool. And I don't have that anymore because, well, we moved and that sucker didn't travel, so we knocked it down and threw it in a burn pit and moved on. But we know of a guy who has the ability to run circles around us, Paul Owens, who you've worked with a ton, who I have on Spin Move Racing, and I will never ever get rid of him, no matter what he's doing in real life, no matter how infrequent he might be on the server. He's mine, and I love Paul. And here's a guy who's got all the talent in the world, and he races on a little tiny TV and, the simplest of pedals, and your equipment doesn't necessarily equate to success. Oh. How cool is that?
Yeah, that for me, that's cool. And I'm glad you brought up PO, and I'm going to go on a personal side. I'm going to kind of, we're going to shift back to it eventually, Zach, but if it wasn't for Paul, I'm not the iRacer I am today. I remember when I first started and we were running about where you were, 15th, 20th every week, and I was just getting frustrated to a T, and here comes Paul Owens into the picture, and he's telling me to do this and do that, and hey, do this with the corner, and granted, this is before I had all the gizmos and gadgets with Fanatec, and it was on the Thrustmaster stuff, and we eventually something just clicked, and he was there for my first win on the server, which happened to be at Kentucky in another league that you brought up. And from then on, Zach, that win at Kentucky, something just clicked with me, and we just went on a path that went straight forward. And we've won multiple races. We've been in Final Fours. I've been with you in a Final Four a couple times. And without the help of Paul Owens, I'm not who I am on this server. And it was funny, it was me asking Wes and other guys in our driver channel, like, hey, what are you doing with the car? What's your setup like? Then now it's gone to, hey, Ricky, what are you doing with your car? And it's crazy to think in a matter of 2.5 years, I went from the learner to the teacher, teaching these guys how to race around the track. And I'm always going to be that guy that wants to learn. I think the best thing about racing, and outside of this too, Zach, I coach on the side. I coach a high school basketball team, and I always tell my players this, and I've always told parents this: the moment you stop learning the game of basketball is probably when you got to stop just doing this altogether. So for me, I think once we stop learning on what to do with the car and different types of platforms and disciplines of racing is probably when I'll get out of this, and I'll probably sell everything and just go to being an admin somewhere. I don't know, but this platform is so much fun. I have no words of how fun I have every Friday and multiple times throughout the week when I race. This thing is just so much fun, and it's my getaway from real life stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't leave because you're still the guy teaching me, so you're going to stay here for a long while. So good to know that if you are new to this platform, doesn't really mean you got to spend a bunch of money to enjoy
No.
it. They got a lot of free tracks. They have a lot of free cars. They have awesome leagues that just do the free stuff. You pay for the membership, right? You pay for the rights to use the platform, but other than that, you can have a lot of fun doing a lot of free stuff. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can start making your own paints, or you can find Wes Fuller and he'd make your own paint. And then, or John Goodicunts, will throw his name out there too. But there's some awesome painters in this industry, and this is where I want to sort of move this into the real life world, right? Because there are graphic designers who design race cars on iRacing and then got jobs in real motorsport, making their art on real race cars because they got noticed here on iRacing. Same thing goes with the drivers. And of course, we are here at Friday Night Fuel, a sort of NASCAR based league, and it would only be prudent to talk about those figures in motorsport who use this platform and have increased its popularity or has made their mark on real life NASCAR because of this platform itself. It's not just another video game. It can be a avenue in which you might be able to get into real life motorsport. Now, that only happens to the very, very few, but it does happen. We take a look at guys like William Byron. Look, his whole story is, hey, I didn't have enough backing. I didn't have enough money. I didn't grow up in a place where you could go and hit the dirt tracks every weekend. I wasn't into NASCAR, into motorsport at that really, really early age. So iRacing was that place where he grew and got noticed. And now he's a driver for Hendrick Motorsports and probably one of the most iconic cars in NASCAR. You look at Dale Earnhardt Jr., he did iRacing back before it was cool. Way back in the day, he's got stories about how he'd hop on his computer and, Big E would be sort of griping and upset that he's not working on his car, but he's playing games on his computer. Well, Dale Jr. was doing iRacing before the now golden age of iRacing. He's been doing it forever, and he's still a huge advocate as a historian now for racetracks across the United States and across the world, saying, hey, if we're not using these places in real life, let's go and scan these racetracks. Let's preserve them. Let's make them a part of the virtual history so folks can experience it now in real life. Of course, he's a Hall of Famer now. And then a new name that's coming up through the ranks, Raja Karuth. Again, he's a Truck Series driver now, but he's got a lot of roots in iRacing. I've seen iRacing sponsor a lot of his rise through his rise in the NASCAR ranks. So anybody who might be on the fence about this, just know it's not another video game. It can be a simulation experience. Now, if you are like Ricky or me or a lot of these guys in Friday Night Fuel, for us at the end of the day, it's a hobby. It's a video game. You don't have to take it that seriously, but if you really want to, there's places for you to.
Right. And I know people out there, they do like adult basketball, they'll do adult softball, they'll do recreational volleyball leagues. And so this is my recreational, it's racing. And that's all I've ever known when I've been growing up is I was 6 weeks old, Zach, when I went to my first NHRA event, because we didn't have Texas Motor Speedway. That opened in '97 when I was 7 years old, and I was 6 weeks old going to the Motorplex as a baby, and I was just born into racing. And so my friends know how passionate I am when it comes to racing and whatnot. And so I just wanted to get on the platform and to hear what iRacing can offer as far as the simulation side. It's probably the most realistic thing that's out there to real life. I mean, you go hard for 10 laps, by golly, you're going to run your stuff out and you're not going to be able to control the car, right? And then there's other aspects where, okay, if I don't go hard this run, my tires probably are going to be really well and I can still drive through the field and be able to do what I want to do. And when I came from the console side, like I said earlier, where it was just throttle, no brake, let off the gas, and then you're right back in it. And so when I jumped into the iRacing platform, it was not what I expected at all. And we crashed a bunch, and it was just a horrible experience at first. And it took me some time to get used to. I even took my first rig, I packed it all up in the back of a work truck, and I took it to the warehouse where I work at. and I set up everything, and we had people in there racing on iRacing, and we're doing test laps, and everybody at work is thinking this is actually pretty cool. Do you do this with other people? And yeah, we do it with other people, and we jump on and we have a good time. And there's been moments too where we probably stayed up a little way past our bedtime. And John, if you're watching, that's directed towards you, bud. And I've been to bed at, man, I'm not gonna say the time because that's just gonna get me in trouble, and it's gonna get you in trouble as well. And I don't want to say that, but we've had some karaoke times too, and to see drivers like William Byron, Raja Caruth, Ty Majeski's another one. I know Kyle Larson. I know he came from the dirt side of things, but Kyle Larson, there's videos of him playing Papyrus before it was NASCAR, NASCAR 95 and NASCAR 97 and all that stuff. So to see the drivers of
Max
real
Verstappen,
life,
right? Other racing disciplines.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just use this thing as a test session. And Zach, every time I go to the racetrack, if there's a driver Q&A, that's always the question I bring up is, how do you use iRacing, and how does it compare to the team simulator, the Chevy simulator, Ford simulator, Toyota, and how does it compare to real life? Now I know we don't feel the G's like they do, but I know some people run what we call a butt kicker, and it's basically a device that hooks up to your chair and it feels every bump in the racetrack. And so I always ask that question: is how realistic is iRacing compared to real life? And a lot of the Cup drivers, I've asked Alex Bowman, I've asked Josh Berry this, I've asked William Byron this on these Q&As, and they all agree that it's the most realistic thing that's comparable to real life.
Yeah, some of the other intricate relationships we have here are crew chiefs, right? If you can't race for a certain night, you can hop in and be your buddy's crew chief. See a comment here from Spencer. I try to be a Paul Owens, as he's referring to Paul being you as a crew, or being his. Goodness gracious, he being your crew chief for one race, and it caused him to wreck. So he admits that he's not quite up to Paul's profession when it comes to spotting and making those race day decisions. Got a comment here from Wes about his setup: a curved monitor with a 5-year-old G29 wheel and pedal, and then a cheap seat set and chassis setup. So and then for Wes, it's a little backwards than what we talked about. We said, okay, well, you can use this if you really want to get into real life motorsport. Well, there's tons of guys like Wes who used to race and for some reason or another can't anymore, and now they use this to sort of scratch the itch. So iRacing is a pretty diverse platform, and I think it has served us well. And if you are new to this conversation, we hope that it might serve you well here in the future. Well, that was our pit stop. It was a lengthy one, but it's our first time doing it, and we sort of, like, if you remember, Ricky, our first week here on High Octane, we had that like 15-20 minute warm up of sort of explaining everything and trying to lay down a good foundation. I think we did a pretty good job here for the pit stop here for our first week of just sort of laying a baseline over a topic that means a lot for us.
Yeah, that's basically what we wanted to do is just give the viewers a chance to understand what we're using as far as when we race in these leagues. So yeah, great topic to talk about iRacing, which we do use to showcase our league. And yeah, we're going to come up with something new next week. Maybe we bring something or two back. The main thing for me, Zach, and we were messaging back and forth, like I said, this afternoon, and we just don't want to be repetitive of what we do. And right, we don't want to do, okay, rearview mirror points, here's what's coming up in the show, right? We want to try to have some fluidity when it comes to this, and I believe this was a great opportunity. And shout out to you, my friend. You're the one that came up with this. And just so everybody knows, Zach is the brains of the operation. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Ricky's the looks. Ricky's the looks. So I'm the brains, and then over there you got the beauty. So that now you know how this works. Let's take a look out the windshield. We got an awesome race on the horizon here for Nashville Fairgrounds, as Friday Night Fuel turns their attention back to points racing here this week, and they're going to a historic track, a very unique track, and one in which we'll see a lot of driver personalities. If you got a short fuse, this one might not be for you. And if you are a viewer of tempers and flaring and all the bumping and running, this is one you want to tune into. Nashville Fairgrounds is a 5/8 mile racetrack in, sort of adjacent to Nashville, Tennessee. They've been hosting races for a long, long time. In fact, they are the second longest continuing running racetrack in the United States. This is a historic landmark racetrack. When we talk about NASCAR, we talk about motorsports, we think of Darlington, we think of Daytona as those sort of crown jewel places. Indy hasn't been there long for NASCAR, but it's a sort of mecca for motorsports. When we talk about the historical significance of Nashville Fairgrounds, this is the creme de la creme of racetracks when it comes to history. It is steeped in just awesome, awesome tradition. It used to be a track for horses back in 1904. These folks debuted this little tiny 5/8 of a mile racetrack, and they raced horses on it for a little while, and then decided that, hey, it might be a good thing to race motorcycles on this thing. And so they accompanied horse racing and motorcycle racing on this racetrack, and they lined it up with the state fair, and that's how Nashville Fairgrounds got its name. It was the racetrack next to the fairgrounds, so they were able to dub it as Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. And these drivers were able to get on their motorcycles and be able to put on some good shows for folks up until an incident where there was a motorcycle accident. Sort of in American culture, motorcycle racing on these short fairground speedways, it was super popular, and then injuries started to become more and more frequent, and American culture sort of pulled back on motorcycle racing for a time, and Nashville Fairgrounds fell into that. And then they decided, hey, we will move on from this discipline of racing. We're going to stop racing horses here at this facility, move that elsewhere, and we're going to turn this into a racetrack. They started holding annual events here in 1915, and they were able to bring in race cars when it comes to some of the more traditional racing we're used to. That was sort of late 50s, early 60s, and ever since then, this has been, oh, goodness gracious, man, okay. My whole computer just went dark in the middle of my history lesson. I don't think it affected the stream. Let me know if it did up there, chat, but I'm back. I have no idea what happened other than the fact I maybe didn't jiggle my mouse for this whole time we were talking, and that's why it just went black. Woo, that got me. That got me. Didn't think I'd run into any tech issues tonight, but here we are. But in 1969, NASCAR Grand National Series started making this a tradition, and they came here and it hosted tremendous events, and these folks really poured their heart and soul into this racetrack, and then eventually it went away because there were bigger and better facilities for folks to gather as NASCAR started to gain popularity. And then back when we talked about on the iRacing server being a part of historical data and making sure that tracks left to history were sort of breathed new life into, Dale Jr. picked this track and a couple others that are in sort of the Tennessee, the Carolina areas, and he really wanted to focus on them as historical hubs of racing. And Nashville Fairgrounds was one of the tracks on that list. And ever since then, it sort of gained popularity back with the fans. And here we are in the virtual world holding a NASCAR event here at historical Nashville Fairgrounds. I'm excited for this race, Ricky. This is going to be an awesome event with folks being able to put their tempers out there on the racetrack. Just a grand historic venue. It's going to be a grueling race, 212 laps tomorrow at this racetrack. kind of talk us through what it means to race at such a historical racetrack. It is a challenging racetrack on its face. And what, as a driver, do you have to do to get mentally prepared for a short track race after, hey, you weren't racing for points last week. Now you got to mind your P's and Q's because these races matter.
Right. Yeah. Now it's all about getting ourselves ready for the playoffs, and there's going to be. I know we have 12 regular season races, and I went back and counted the races, Zach, and so we won't have 13 different winners, but there is an opportunity for 12 drivers to lock themselves in, and this is another great opportunity for somebody to try to lock themselves in, or it's a great opportunity to solidify your spot, and now you're just racing for seeding. So for us, it's the first short track of the year. We've gone to 2 miles. We've done plate track racing. We had Daytona or Talladega, and we've done a road course. And so now we're coming into a short track, like you said, 5/8 mile. It's kind of high banked. I want to say it's a longer Bristol. In my opinion, it's not as steep as Bristol, but it does have some banking to it. Not like Martinsville where it's just a flat short track. And so for us, the keys for me, I think, is don't get involved in other people's stuff. There's going to be wrecks. We know there's going to be some beating and banging. And you just can't be involved in any of that stuff. You got to be able to hold on to that faster pair as long as you can, because if you use it early, you're going to be in a world of hurt to try to make it the full 212 laps. And so for us, we kind of break the race into 2 halves, right? You have your stage break, which is your halfway point, so that'll be on lap 106, and then from there it's game on. Like, what strategies do you use to try to get to the front? I know we used a bunch of different strategies to get there last week, and so if we can avoid starting in the back, I think that'll be a win for us. You get to see kind of what your car does in clean air, but it also hurts you because what happens if you do get caught up in a wreck? Well, now you're in the back. You don't know what your car is going to do, and now you're trying to just make your way through the field. So we did a little bit of homework. We watched last year's race. The broadcaster that had our league, he still has the video up, so I was able to do a little bit of homework. I know some guys have their iRacing replay saved from last season, and so I'm sure they're watching that, trying to gain a little bit of knowledge. But there is going to be a little monkey twist in this race, Zach. We actually raced it in the daytime last year. Well, this year it's at night. And so, as you know, cooler tips, more grip in the racetrack, going to be able to fly around that 5/8 mile, where last year you kind of had to tiptoe just because of the heat and how hot the racetrack was, and you didn't want to slip and slide as much. And I'm hoping that the setup that we have, and Till put a lot of hard work into the setup to make sure that we're good to go. And hopefully we have a lot of side-by-side racing, and there's going to be some moments where I think off the exit of 2 might be a little bit of tricky for some guys just because of how narrow it gets. And then maybe the exit of 4, same thing. It gets narrow on the exits where I think there's going to be some beating and banging and wall banging. And last year we got caught up in a wreck, and so we were like 5 laps down and 4 laps down or something like that. So I want to improve on that. And for me, it's all about lap completion. I think if we can complete the laps and just be there, I think we'll have a chance at something. And I've always had a goal for me where every time I join a league, I just want to be interviewed, and so that's going to be the goal this week. Let's just get a finish where we're interviewed, and hopefully we can move a couple spots up in the points.
So you talked about some of the things that drivers need to do in order to be successful at this racetrack, Ricky. Be able to run all the laps, avoid all the chaos, make sure that you're able to just simply be there at the end. One of the things when it comes to keys of the race, Ricky, that I'd like to hear from you and maybe to educate some of these viewers out here is green flag pit stops. You know, we don't quite know if this is going to happen at a short track because there's obviously chaos that happens at short tracks sometimes. Sometimes in leagues, these short track races can get kind of messy. But at Nashville Fairgrounds, you are a little more open. There we go. Shout out to my all-star wife for giving me a water. Thank you. Sometimes at these racetracks, it can get kind of messy, but at Nashville Fairgrounds, there is, some room to move, and it's not super, super small. It's not the smallest racetrack you could go and race at. What does it mean for you as a driver, Ricky, to really prepare for the scenario of green flag pit stops, how can that change a driver's race at a track like Nashville Fairgrounds?
Oh man, at this place it'll change drastically. It's not your traditional pit road where you can just come off the banking and then boom, you're on pit road. There's actually, man, it's not a swinging gate. It's not a like a door or anything. It's weird. You come off the banking and you have to take, or you can use the banking, whatever you want to use. I'm not sure. I have to meet with John and Spencer and see what we want to do if we do get to green flag pit stops. But you literally have to crank the wheel 90 degrees to come into a little, it looks like a door, and you literally turn left into that, and then you're on pit road. And so I know last year we had a couple guys where they hit that barrier and they hit the sand, the trash bags full of or the trash cans full of sand, like Kyle Larson did last year at Homestead. They hit those and it destroyed the front end of the car, broke toe links on the front. You're coming down, now you're wasting a faster pair when you didn't really want to burn one, but now you have to because you hit those barriers. And yeah, at this place it could either, it's gonna make your race or break your race. But I'm gonna be completely honest with you, Zach. I don't see us doing a green flag pit stop this race.
Yeah.
We didn't do one last week just because of how the cautions fell, but with it being our first short track, and I'm not sure how other drivers are gonna be when it comes to the aggression part, if they just settle in and or if they're all just trying to go to the front and just and be that guy that wants to lead and control the race. I got to feel how the race is going to be and see people in practice and all that stuff. But if it's me, I'm being very patient, trying to get around people and seeing their tendencies and whatnot. And I've always done that for whatever reason. I know I can be more aggressive on the racetrack, but I think this will be a great opportunity to see, all right, who's going to make this green flag pit stop and who's going to miss it. And I'll raise my hand. I'll probably be the ones that miss it.
So, just another monkey wrench into this whole thing, Ricky, is that Friday Night Fuel, they have a halfway stage break. So, how does fuel work in terms of, getting close to halfway? That's something for these drivers to think about. Does it put them in a pickle where they go, okay, well, my fuel might last me there, but maybe my tires won't, and sort of managing all that stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see the different strategies that play out. We see Snake Parker Racing here. Good to see you here, man, and welcome. We're nearing the end, but you made it, and it'll be here on the channel. You can watch the whole thing. Good stuff. And I'm really excited for this race just because of, man, it's such a different feel, right? We're going to the Rock, nothing really matters except for the win, to now we're going to a short track, the first one of the season, and you can get kind of angry at these places, but it's a points race, so you have to manage your temper, and you got to make sure that you're there at the end. So good stuff in order to get prepared for the keys of the race when it comes to Nashville Fairgrounds. We're here now, aren't we?
Yeah, here we are.
So
here we are, my friend.
So I have to admit, I knew who I was going to pick for this race.
Uh-oh.
I knew who I was going to pick for Nashville Fairgrounds probably last Friday. Like,
okay.
Before you raced your all-star race, I knew who I was going to pick for this race. And I just, man, he's a driver that, whether it be in trucks or in a cup car, he is the first one to say that he's going to have a terrible day. And he, on these kinds of racetracks where it's making sure you wrap the bottom and then get creative as you try to pass other guys, he figures it out. And he's very, very quick on his feet when it comes to making sure that he's got a long run car. And if the beginning of the race is good for the driver that I'm going to talk to you about, he's going to win this race. And I'm shaking in my boots right now because this is a big moment for me, Ricky. Right?
Okay.
I mean, I mean, the title of the show is The Chosen One, for goodness sake, and got the first pick right, got the second pick right, and on Halloween, this is as spooky as it gets for me because. Managing to pick 2 winners in a row on our first 2 shows was not the roadmap I thought we were going to do. I thought I was just going to get lucky and pick you and then be done with this, but here we are. So with all that said, I'm going to stick with the guy that I knew I was going to pick on Friday, and it's Wes Fuller. And I think Wes is going to figure this one out. And I've raced with Wes a lot. We've talked about him a lot, coincidentally tonight, without knowing that we were going to talk about Wes a lot tonight. But he has been, I think of a few Truck Series races that we were in a league that we participated in not too long ago. When it comes to these kinds of short tracks where you're able to just be disciplined and find a rhythm that works for you, he's really good at that. And this track really does benefit those who can find something that just works for them, and they're able to save tires and make sure that they can refine that throughout the race. I thought I saw Spencer. I'm going to scroll up here.
Yeah.
He mentioned it. Wes is the winner of the inaugural race last year for this event. I knew that going into last Friday. He had a crazy pass, and it was quite the barn burner. But look, when the start of the race is good for Wes, you gotta watch out for that 35 machine, and I'm gonna pick him. So here we are, laying it on the line, 2-0, baby, trying to go 3-0 with my buddy Wes Fuller. So the string of new winners, at least outside of points events. Well, yeah, you were a first time winner too. So that continues. I'm picking Wes Fuller to go ahead and win Nashville Fairgrounds. No pressure, bud, but here we are. So that's going to be my pick for Nashville Fairgrounds.
Okay, I like that pick. Like you said, Wes was our inaugural winner, and he had a kind of dramatic pass to win last season. And even though it was his only win, I mean, the kid, if he can keep his head on straight, I feel like he can be there. He does have moments where if certain things don't go his way, he tends to get down on himself pretty quickly. And luckily for me, he's on my team, and so we get to calm him down and, hey man, stay in the game, stay focused, stay locked in, and you try to just coach him through those moments. And I think that is a solid pick. Wes has a dirt background as well, so I know that he's going to be able to manage his throttle inputs to make sure the car gets off the corner the way that he wants it to. And if he can avoid all the carnage and he's there, that's a really good pick. And I was gonna go a different route, Zach, and be like, I'm just gonna pick somebody, and no, I'm gonna save that. That's your thing, and I'm gonna give you your flowers, sir. You just gotta have this moment from here on until we end the show. And when I say end the show, I mean like in the show, like in the show for good. So you're gonna keep doing this, my friend, until you're gonna get this one right, knock on wood, or we're just gonna keep throwing some punches. And I know we have a lot of people out here watching, and we're just gonna keep rolling with your predictions because so far you're batting 1,000, my friend. That's good.
First ballot Hall of Famer, baby. Ready? All right. Well, you're all fueled up and you're ready to go here. We had a great show, talked about what was, took a pit stop in the middle of it. We're able to refuel and recharge and then finish strong here by looking forward to Nashville Fairgrounds. Ricky, do you have anything else to say to anybody before we call it a night here on High Octane?
Man, super appreciative of, again, all the people that are in the chat. Appreciate y'all tuning in. If you haven't already, go like Snake Bitten Gaming on Facebook. He's the one that broadcasts our league. Yeah, you can see the logo right above there. He does everything. I said this too last week, Zach, in an interview. If he had TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, if he had every single social media platform, I'd tell you to go like him, and he does a phenomenal job. And what gets me, Zach, is he does the broadcast by himself. And so to see somebody have that much energy when it comes to broadcasting and doing it by yourself, Parker, Jeremy Parker knocks it out of the park. So appreciative of Jeremy coming in and having some fun with us tonight. Looks like we have 12 people right now watching. Appreciative of you guys tuning in. And let's keep the numbers up. Oh, I just saw it went up 13 now. So appreciative of everybody tuning in. We want to see this thing grow. And who knows, Zach, maybe we're next on Dirty Mo Media tuning in with Dale Jr. and hanging out with them. And yeah, I'm just super grateful to do this alongside with you, my friend. And it's been a fun night.
Yeah, it has certainly been a fun night. Thank you all for tuning in. I know it's a bit of a longer show than usual, but anytime we debut a new segment or try something new, we want to really flesh that out the first time through. As you saw from week 1 to week 2, we were able to manage time a little bit better. We're going to make adjustments, make sure that we're hitting that like 38 to 48, 50 minute mark at most for you guys. But we want to thank you for sticking around with us here on High Octane Podcast. You are all fueled up and ready to go. And make sure you tune in tomorrow night for some awesome racing by Friday Night Fuel on Snake Bitten Gaming, exclusively on Facebook Live. Make sure you share that link to all of your friends. Share what's here on Spin Move iRacing Network so that you don't miss a thing, so that you can come back next week and give me more flowers because Wes is able to pull this one out this week. And you can tune in to the brains and the beauty here on High Octane Podcast. I am so pumped that we're able to do this with you guys. And from me to you, my name is Zach Woods. From my partner, Ricky Gonzalez, thank you for tuning on in, making this an awesome experience. We'll talk to you again real soon.